I'd like to address the Chamber on a topic that I've been speaking on once a week or thereabouts since we passed the historic tax reform late last year. Last Friday, I had the chance to visit Jed Pool Tools, Northeast Plastics in Scranton, Pennsylvania. It's a company owned by Cindy and Alan Hayen and employs about 30 people. Jed Pool Tools makes swimming pool accessories. They make the skimmers and water test kits and other devices that people use in their pools. Northeast Plastics is a sister company, and they make custom plastic products like locker handles and barber supplies and all kinds of special order products. Well, Mr. President, this is a great example of tax reform in action, tax reform that is working for this small business and this employer in northeastern Pennsylvania. They, like other small businesses, get to discount by 20% their net income and only pay tax on the other 80%. That frees up cash flow for this business and businesses all across America to go out and purchase new equipment, to invest in their employees, to grow their business, to hire more workers, to raise wages. And that's exactly what's happening. It's happening there at Jed Pools, but it's also happening really across the country. In less than 2 months since our legislation was passed, over 300 businesses employing over 3 million workers have announced bonuses, wage increases, expanded benefits, contributions to pension plans, increased investment in charitable contributions. The list goes on, and these are the ones that cite tax reform as the reason they were able to do these things for their workers, for their business. In Pennsylvania alone, we've had some recent announcements. Thermo Fisher employs 2,600 people in Pennsylvania, and it's a biotech product development company. They've announced $50 million in additional investments, $34 million in the form of bonuses that they're going to pay to each of the company's 68,000 non-executive employees. They've also announced $16 million in additional research and development programs and support for STEM education. And they cited that they're doing this as a direct result of the tax reform that was passed. Cigna, big global health service company, 5,900 employees in Pennsylvania, and again, citing our tax reform, they've announced that they're going to increase the minimum wage that they pay throughout the company to $16 an hour. That'll be the lowest wage anyone at an entry level, starting level, the lowest wage anyone makes at Cigna. And they're going to provide an additional $15 million in salary raises to people who are already working there. Oh, and they're also going to put $30 million more into 401k savings programs that their employees participate in, all attributable directly to the tax reform. Or take the case of UPS. UPS employs 19,000 Pennsylvanians, and they announced that due to the favorable tax law impact, that's their words, they're committing an additional $7 billion in capital spending over 3 years to build and renovate facilities, to acquire new aircraft and ground fleet vehicles, to enhance their technical platforms, and they announced they're going to contribute an additional $5 billion to their employees' pension plans as well. That comes to about $13,000 per participant. That's a tremendous amount of money for each of their employees. But there are small companies that are sharing the benefits as well. Noah Bank in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, they said specifically, again, thanks to the passage of the new tax legislation, this Pennsylvania chartered community bank is awarding $1,500 bonuses to all of their employees. So, Mr. President, we're seeing it all up and down the country, certainly all across Pennsylvania, large firms, small firms, financial firms, manufacturers, across the board, workers are already benefiting from the tax reform that we passed back in December. Another important indicator that the benefits are likely to grow is the optimism that workers and business have because of the environment they're operating in. It's a real important driver. UBS does research on investor and business optimism. They recently did a survey of business owners, and they asked the question, several questions. One of them is your economic outlook positive? Well, in the fourth quarter of last year, outlook was pretty positive. 65% said yes, their outlook for the economy is positive. First quarter of this year, it's up to 83%. 83%. They asked the question, is the business outlook stronger now than it was in the past? In the fourth quarter of last year, 77% said yes, it's stronger. First quarter of this year, 87% said yes, the business outlook is stronger. And they asked business owners about their plans for hiring and investing. 36% plan to hire more workers, 44% plan to invest more. And this is really important, Mr. President, because it is optimism about the future that is a necessary precondition for more investment. Because after all, that investment depends on a strong economy going forward to make it worthwhile. Well, that investment is reaching new highs because of the combination of a lighter regulatory touch and a much more pro-growth tax reform. I think it's important to stress also, Mr. President, that this tax reform is not some kind of short-term sugar high, let's throw money at people and then hope it goes well. It's not that at all. It's a set of different incentives that will lead to a structural change in the economy and specifically greater productive capacity on the part of our economy by encouraging more investment, by lowering the cost of making that investment, by allowing businesses to retain more of their earnings so they've got more to invest. All of that expands our economy, expands our productive capacity, creates more demand for workers. More demand for workers puts upward pressure on workers' wages. And what did we see just last week? A major, in fact, the largest increase in average worker wages that we've seen in many, many years. So, Mr. President, I am thrilled that our tax reform is having such beneficial impact all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and so quickly. I expected upward pressure on wages. I expected more job opportunities. I expected a higher standard of living. I didn't quite expect it to happen this quickly, but I'm thrilled that it is, and I'm convinced this is just the beginning. And I yield the floor.